Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And we do have a lot to go over today because Nintendo just revealed 19 new games over at the Nintendo Indie World. Yeah, they had a lot of games to show here, some of which I do think is incredibly exciting. A couple very specifically, which we will go over here in just a little bit. Now also, it is finally happening. We do get to talk about Splinter Cell 2 days in a row because Ubisoft did finally confirmed they are indeed working on a new Splinter Cell game, though this one was a little surprising to me, but I do love what I'm hearing. So we're going to go over that one as well. Let's go and get started off with some of the quick news first, though, as we did get some new details about Chocobo GP. Now, this is a game that I have been optimistically interested in, as this is a kart racer set in the Final Fantasy universe. I never really played the original or anything like that, but I have heard good things about it, and personally, I just don't think that we get enough good kart racers on a regular basis outside of the Mario Kart franchise. So maybe we could see something a little bit familiar here, but different at the same time with Chocobo GP. They did just release a new trailer talking about the different game modes it has, including story mode. You have Chocobo GP, which is where you have a tournament of like 64 players to see who can win. I do think that one sounds pretty interesting. There's time attack, there's series races, which kind of sounds similar to your Mario Kart style of races, and then you also have custom races as well. So there does seem to be a lot of content here, and based off the trailer that they did show, there was a few of the mainline Final Fantasy IX characters here as well, and that is something that I have been curious about because so far we'd really only seen basically different monsters within the Final Fantasy universe. So here with this new trailer, it does show some of the mainline characters such as Vivi, and that does have me wondering if maybe they will add more of the mainline characters with some DLC later on down the line. Maybe we could get Cloud, Tifa, Sephiroth, maybe we could get Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, or Squall, or Zidane, or whomever. I would absolutely love to see them include more of these mainline Final Fantasy characters later on down the line. Here's the really good news though, they did reveal a release date being March 10th for the Nintendo Switch. Now there does appear to be two different versions of this game though. There's going to be the standard version, and then there's also going to be a free-to-play version as well with Chocobo GP Lite. This apparently is a stripped-down version of this game that doesn't include things such as story mode, so if you just want to jump right in, you can absolutely do that with Chocobo GP Lite. Next up, we do have a little update on Hellblade 2. Of course, we did get a reveal of this game last week at the Game Awards, and after seeing that trailer for this game, it's still almost hard to believe that this is a real game with real gameplay. And I think that's kind of the thing, because there are some people that are in a little bit of disbelief that this was actual gameplay. I'd actually seen some people report on this and claim that it was just cinematics and that it wasn't actually gameplay, but that is not true at all. And well, now it has been confirmed, because David Garcia, which is the audio director for Hellblade 2 and works over at Ninja Theory, this is what he had to say over on Twitter. If you take a look over here at his tweet, he does talk about the audio in Hellblade 2, but then he has this to say as well. Everything in this demo is in-engine, real-time, no tricks. This is real. As such, not everything is perfect yet. So there you have it. This trailer was indeed very real, and something that I did actually say last week is what's kind of crazy about this entire demo is because it does look so impressive. It looks so realistic, but at the same time, there's still a lot of development to be had with this game. I believe that it is expected to release sometime in 2023, and by the time we get closer to that release, there's a very good chance that this game will look even better than what it already does, and that's kind of insane to think about, just considering how good it already looks. But I do want to go ahead and say that I do understand that a lot of people are really focused on the visuals of this game because it does look incredible, but at the same time, it's kind of easy to forget that this game also has a really good story. The first game was just one of the best story-driven games of last generation, and that was one of my favorite things about this trailer because the story hooked me immediately. I want to know more about what is going on in this trailer, so cannot wait to play this game. Legitimately, I will say that this is one of the best trailers that I have seen for a video game in quite some time. I really believe that we might be in for a special treat here with Hellblade 2. Let's go and talk about Nintendo, though, as they just revealed 19 new games over at Nintendo Indie World. Yeah, there's a lot to cover here. Now, I'm not going to be able to talk about all 19 games just because that's going to make this video extremely long. So what I'm going to do here is actually give you a list of all 19 games that they did announce today. Spoiler alert, unfortunately, Hollow Knight Silksong was not here, but there was actually some really interesting games here at this event, which I will highlight here in just a moment. First, though, let's just go ahead and take a look at the list of all games announced at this event, and this includes Sea of Stars, Alicia, Locomotive, Afterlove EP, Dungeon Munchies, Figment 2, Let's Play Oink Games, Inling Extinction, Ollie Ollie World, River City Girls 2, yes, we did get an update on that one, Parkosaurus, Don't Starve Together, Chicory A Colorful Tale, Baby Storm, Grime, Gerda A Flame in Winter, Timeline, Behind the Frame The Finest Scenery, and then Omori. So that right there was all 19 games, and the cool thing is that all of these games will be available in 2022. Now, what I'm going to do with this, just because there's so many games here, I'm actually going to leave a pinned comment in the comment section below where I do give a specific release window for each individual game here, which does include some games that are available today, so definitely check that out. Let's go and talk about some of the big highlights at this event, though, because there was definitely some really exciting games here, including Sea of Stars. Now, the first thing that you're probably going to notice about Sea of Stars is that it was heavily inspired by Chrono Trigger, and that right away is going to grab the attention of a lot of fans, considering that Chrono Trigger is often viewed as the very best JRPG to ever be made. But there's actually a little bit more going for this game than just that, because this one is actually coming from the same creators that worked on The Messenger. In fact, this is actually a prequel to The Messenger. Now, if you haven't played The Messenger, I can honestly say that this is one of the best independent games that you can play right now. Starts off as a 2D action platformer, similar to something like your old Ninja Gaiden games, but then it kind of transforms into a Metroidvania style of game the more you play it. Both of which, though, are masterfully done, and it's got some well-written and humorous dialogue as well. Truly, this is a top-tier independent game, and that is why this specific game is so incredibly exciting. The fact that Sea of Stars is inspired by Chrono Trigger up to the point that it also has the same composer, but then you also have these top-tier developers working on it that has already produced a really good independent game in the past. Yeah, this automatically becomes one of my more anticipated games to release in 2022. This one definitely has a lot of potential, and it apparently will release holiday of next year. Now, they did also reveal a few ports here that's actually available on PC currently, both of which have been well received, one being Grime. Grime is this Metroidvania game that released earlier this year, and it currently does have an 81 overall score on Metacritic. This is a game that we have talked about a few times on this channel. The Metroidvania genre really has just grown so much here in recent years, and it does seem like Grime has been one of those premier releases as of yet. Seems like both fans and critics seem to like this one a lot, and it does get compared to Dark Souls quite often. It's got this dark and atmospheric world. It does have combat that focuses a little bit more on its parry system. But yes, if you do like Metroidvania style games, Grime will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch summer of 2022. Honestly, I'm a little surprised they didn't showcase this one a little bit more than what they did. This other port, though, this is the one that Nintendo is really hyping up, and actually it does seem like for a very good reason, and that is for Omori. Now, Omori is probably a game a lot of you all probably haven't even heard about. This game seems to have gotten very little coverage so far, but it seems like everybody who plays this game absolutely loves it. It does have an 87 overall score on Metacritic, but more importantly, if you take a look over on Steam, out of 26,600 reviews, 98% of those recommends Omori. Now, anytime I see a game like that have a lot of reviews and also have that much positive feedback, yeah, that's a pretty good sign that this is a very, very good game. Based off some of the reviews I was looking at, this is not just your typical JRPG. Sure, it might look like that on the surface, but this one apparently does touch up on some very serious topics. Apparently, it touches up on things like anxiety, depression, and suicide, and that's not something that you typically see in video games, but apparently Omori does this, and it does it very well. I'm hearing that this game has an absolutely beautiful story, so if that is something that you're interested in, you're definitely going to want to keep an eye out for Omori, which releases on the Nintendo Switch spring of 2022. Now, two other games that we're quickly going to brush up on here would be Afterlove EP, which is actually coming from the same studio that worked on Coffee Talk. And the reason I wanted to talk about this one is just because Coffee Talk is well known for being one of the better visual novel style of games. So if you do like visual novels, Afterlove EP does sound pretty interesting. The story itself does sound really interesting, with Afterlove EP being about coping with the loss of somebody that they once loved. They lost a relationship, but they are now moving on, and now they might even find love again. I do find that to be a really interesting story, and that one will be releasing summer of 2022. Now this other one, this is a very well-known game, being River City Girls 2. They didn't go into too much details about this game, but they did reveal that it will have online co-op. It has 6 playable characters, and it will be releasing in summer of 2022. I did absolutely love the first game, and I view that as just one of the better overall beat-em-up games in general. So anytime we see River City Girls 2, yeah, I'm going to be pretty happy about that. Overall, though, I do think that Nintendo did a really good job with the Nintendo Indie World today, and there's definitely a lot to look forward to throughout 2022. Okay, so we do have one more thing to talk about today, and this one is a big one and something that I'm really excited to talk about, and that is because they did finally reveal a new Splinter Cell game. We did just talk about this yesterday, but there's been a lot of rumors going around that Ubisoft had greenlit a new Splinter Cell game, and that has now officially been confirmed, though it is a little bit different than what I was expecting. Previously, there were some rumors going around that this Splinter Cell game was going to be a new open world game that was kind of inspired by IO Interactive's Hitman. I feel like that'd be a good fit, but I actually like what they announced today even more, and that is because this is a remake of the original Splinter Cell game that released back in 2002. Yes, I like this idea way more because I feel like that those original Splinter Cell games were just the absolute best. Now, I'm not saying that Blacklist was bad or anything, but I know that a lot of Splinter Cell fans out there did not like the direction that Splinter Cell was taking, as it was just becoming more of this action-driven game. Those classic games, they solely focus on stealth gameplay, though, and even all these years later, some of the things that you could do in Splinter Cell was quite innovative and creative. The way they played around with the lighting and the shadows and how you had to actually evade your enemies, it was quite stunning at the time, and I think all these years later, it's still impressive because there's just not a lot of these experiences on the market, period. So to see them go back to that original formula, I do think is exciting, and I mean, what better way to do that than by doing a remake? This is a great way to have old-time fans return and then also attract completely new customers as well. I think this is a great way to bring the Splinter Cell franchise back, and if it does a good job, then they can make even more Splinter Cell games, hopefully continuing with that stealth-based formula. Now, with all that in mind, they did kind of emphasize here that this game is still early in development, so don't expect a release anytime soon or anything like that. They were basically just confirming that this remake does exist and that they are currently making it. Now, with that said, they did give a few interesting details here, including this game will be remade from the ground up using the Snowdrop engine. Now, if you don't know what the Snowdrop engine is, this is the same engine that The Division 2 uses, or even the upcoming Avatar game. So this engine can produce some very good-looking games, so that is good news to hear that Splinter Cell will be remade using the Snowdrop engine. They did also clarify that this game will remain faithful to the original, and it will be a linear style of game. This is not an open-world game, which I view as a good thing personally. I've said this several times on the channel, but I really do believe that open world does not automatically make a game better. I think a lot of times open world games takes you out of the action, and the level design in general I just don't feel is always as good as a more linear style of game. So I am happy to hear that Splinter Cell will be that linear experience here with the remake. This is a remake after all, so I think that is rather expected. Now, with that said, they did mention that they want to meet present-day gameplay expectations. I'm not sure exactly what that means just yet, but it does seem like there will be some changes when it comes to the gameplay. This could just be some quality of life stuff, which would be a welcome addition. They do seem to be very aware that Splinter Cell should be a stealth-based game first and foremost. So as long as they stick to that original formula, this is definitely a game worth being excited for. Again, it's going to be a few years away, but yes, Splinter Cell is finally finally back. Now, actually, speaking of Splinter Cell, let's just go and jump right into the poll of the day, where I asked you all, if Ubisoft is actually making a new Splinter Cell game, would you rather them stick to the classic formula or instead to make it an open world game? And well, it does seem like most of you all will be happy here, as 57% of you said classic Splinter Cell, 19% said open world, while 16% of you said it doesn't matter, you just want a new Splinter Cell game. So there you have it. Most of you all did want that classic Splinter Cell, and I think we got just a little bit more than classic, as this is just a flat-out remake. Again, I really like that, as I generally just don't think that open world automatically means better, and I'm really hoping that this is just the beginning of more to come for the Splinter Cell franchise. I hope this game does really well, and if it does, then hopefully we can see more Splinter Cell games in the future. What I will say, though, is that I think fans of stealth-based games, though, have a lot to look forward to this generation. With now you have a new Splinter Cell game, there's also the upcoming Perfect Dark, and then, I mean, here recently we did also have Hitman 3. So it does seem like fans of this genre are probably pretty happy right now. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.